In a MaxDiff question, we don't show all the items at the same time. We typically show somewhere between 3 to 5 items. Let me talk a little bit about MaxDiff. Rating scales generally have problems. There's a lack of discrimination, there's scale use bias, and I'm going to explain what those mean. Lack of discrimination is when, you give a 5-point scale or a 10-point scale, and people generally, especially in certain cultures, will tend to want to agree. And so you'll get lots of ties, a lot of straight lining, and so you don't get as much discrimination to be able to tell whether one item is truly more desired or more important than another item. So that's one typical problem that I think you're used to seeing. The other thing that you might be used to thinking about, and some of you might not have thought about this, is that different people, especially different people from different cultures, tend to have different tendencies or biases when using these scales. For example, people from USA and Germany have been found to be using a little bit lower points on the scale than people in India or South America, for example, who want to be more agreeable with the researcher and don't want to be as negative. And this is going to make it really hard to do cross-cultural research to try to compare people's answers if people just have a tendency to use the scale differently. And so that's another problem with the common rating scale. So for the last about 20 years, this technique called MaxDiff, also known as best-worst scaling, has emerged as a better way to get better discrimination among the items. That means you can get more precision with smaller sample size. And this methodology called MaxDiff is a good way to get better discrimination than a rating scale, and it avoids the scale use bias because there's no scale involved. Every respondent has to pick a best and a worst, and there's no different way, whether you're in India or whether you're in Germany, to pick a best and a worst. It's also seems to be a better technique than rating scales for interviewing people, especially like young children and cognitively challenged elderly people, who might struggle with what a rating scale on a 5-point or 10-point scale means. Just choosing a best and a worst item in each screen is something that essentially everybody can understand. At the Sawtooth Software company, we have a software product and we want to make improvements to it. So we thought that we could use this technique. We've been around for 40 years or so, and we do an annual feedback survey. And we want to know how to improve our legacy Windows installed platform. But this is an ongoing platform that we're interested in making improvements to. So using a variety of techniques, using user feedback, the technical support team that was giving us feedback, information from the marketing and sales team and the executive committee, we came up with a whole bunch of items that we thought that we could do to improve our existing software. And these items may look kind of funny to you, but to our users, these items mean something. And so we did a MaxDiff survey amongst a bunch of our users, and we asked them 15 questions, and they traded off these items that we could do. It took respondents about 4 minutes to take this survey. Our respondents went really carefully. It took about 25 to 30 seconds to answer the first MaxDiff question. Once they got going, they were answering these MaxDiff questions in about 10 to 15 seconds. And based on that, we had 160 responses from some of our customers. We didn't interview them all, obviously. And we ordered them from most important, which was T, which was a MaxDiff utility report that doesn't exist yet in our older platform, all the way through Y and I, these least important to people things that we could do in our software, create a new calendar question or add granular permission levels for users in the admin module. So that was going to be one dimension, is what our customers want. Now, the next dimension that we wanted to look at was how important we thought things were internally for our experts, our internal stakeholders. And we had 8 internal stakeholders. I was one of the stakeholders. We had executives, we had people on the marketing, product, and also in engineering that are very familiar with this product. And we took the very same survey and we got our importance scores on the same 27 items that we asked our users to do. And then, of course, we wanted to plot those results. Do the users agree with what we think internally? And there's only a low positive correlation of 0.35. It's good that it's at least positively correlated. It means we tend to be thinking similarly to our users, but there's quite a few differences. These are the top 10 items to the users. And these are the top 10 things that we could do to improve our product according to internally what we think. We know some things that our users don't know, but they know a lot of things that we don't know. And maybe we should think about where we overlap. Where we overlap in terms of the top 10 is with G, T, A, and C. Items G, T, A, and C are things that we could do to improve our product that not only we think are top 10 things to do, but our users think are top 10 things to do. Now, figuring out what to do next for a software company or for any technology company or any company, I think, outside of that, a lot of it depends on how expensive or how hard it is to make these improvements. I mean, users might want it and we might want to do it, but might be super hard to do. So we asked a software development team that we have here, a 4-person software development team. We explained very carefully what all of these 27 features were and asked them how hard it would be to do on a 5-point scale. And our internal team did a really good job of discriminating. They didn't straight line us because we would have beaten them if they did, and we would have fired them or whatever. I'm just kidding. They answered very nicely on a 5-point scale. And we created this difficulty scale from red being difficult, that's what our internal programmers say, down to green being easy. And we color-coded that same 2-dimensional chart now on a 3-dimension, the difficulty of doing it. So now you can see that G, T, A, and C are really important both to internal stakeholders and to users, and they're all kind of hard to do. The somewhat difficult one to do is T, okay? And it's a feature that luckily our team already decided to implement a few months ago, so we're going to work on that. G is something that for multiple years we've said that we didn't want to do because it's so hard to do. It's a deep red, difficult thing to do, G, but it's a number 2 ranked item for our users. So this, of course, leads to some really interesting discussions as we talk about what we want to do, what our users think we should do, and how hard it is to do it.